We'll be giving a few moments here while people get themselves lined up and signed up on board, I should say. Got a few more people that are coming on board as we're waiting for it. And then we'll begin this presentation. Kind of gave you a little clue there with the word traditional up there. We'll let you think about that for a minute. As we do the presentation today, there'll be an opportunity for you to create questions or chats on the system. Please feel free to enter that information in there. We will not be responding during the session, but we will respond afterwards to any and all inquiries that come through. And also we will keep all the lines muted simply because with the number of attendees that we have, it becomes a little problematic to have everyone have open lines and speak at once, and so that's one of the reasons so that everyone can hear. We normally keep the lines muted. We'll go ahead and begin here. You see the word traditional up there. Makes you wonder what exactly we're talking about. Well, traditional, oftentimes it can mean a number of things. It can mean classical, it can mean historic, it can mean time-honored. When we think about traditional in connection with lighting, architecture, think of traditional in terms of our daily experience, draws us back to a different time. Draws us back to a time of security, of comfort, of family. Might take us all the way back in heritage-wise to the beginning of our country here and think about the things that drew everyone together. And when we think of tradition, we also have some great expressions that we have here in this country. Mom, baseball, and apple pie. What's more traditional than that? What constitutes Americana more than that? When we stop and look at the idea of tradition and of things that make us feel secure and comfortable, particularly in regards to our architecture, we've seen over the last 2 decades, particularly since 9/11 it seems to be, in architecture, in downtown streets and city environments, a movement towards more of a small town feeling, a small town persona, where people interact with one another, where the surroundings become intimate to the pedestrian, and there's an encouragement for walking traffic more so than driving traffic. And in the architecture that we look at in connection with some of the venues that we see around us as far as where people gather, sporting events in particular have taken this personality on in the last 15 to 20 years, where the looks of our stadiums are almost a throwback to the 20s and 30s. The expression "the good old days" comes to mind in the way that these buildings and these properties have been constructed. And so this idea of tradition, a feeling of family, a feeling of sense and security, a feeling of togetherness and community is quite a part of our experience. When it comes to lighting, and in the U.S. architectural and Sun Valley product line, Sun Valley is definitely our traditional branding name. We pretty much come down to 3 particular styles of luminaires that constitute traditional fixtures. Now, there's a lot of variations in this, but basically the core comes down to typically the acorn, the coach lantern, a 4-sided lantern look, and the knob and shade style luminaire and all the variations that these bring. Now, certainly the basic form is there, but we get a lot of variations on things like lanterns with more expressive capitals and some cages and such that bring more look to them. Optical control in the way the lanterns the refractors of the lanterns are constructed, or the acorns are constructed. And when it comes to lanterns, it doesn't have to be just 4-sided lanterns. We see 6-sided and 8-sided lanterns. Some lanterns reflect particular architectural styles, such as a prairie-style lantern that we see here, but they all have kind of a similar basic construct or look to them. When we think of the knob and shade style luminaire, there's a lot of variations on this as well. Everything from a deck light or a warehouse light to fixtures that we see illuminating large parking areas, and fixtures that are used to be highly performance oriented when it comes to lighting city streets and such. And looking at all of these various fixture types, they tend to fit into certain applications that are more suited to their appearance and to their styling than others, and to their performance than others. For instance, when we take a look at acorns, we see them used a lot in more intimate city street environments where there's walking traffic or smaller streets close up to building architecture, where all of the features can blend into that and cast lighting on the buildings, on the walkways, and on the streets as well. When we look at the 4-sided lantern or 8-sided lantern or 6-sided lantern, has a little more variation there in its applications. We see a lot of twin mount applications to light areas as well as roadways, a little bit more encompassing as far as the type of projects that can be used, not just pedestrian illumination. And when we move to the knob and shade style luminaire, even major roadways and large parking areas in some cities we find this fixture used in, as particularly if architectural styling is a consideration of the community. We'll see a fixture like this used many times in places where they just don't want to see a shoebox on a 25-foot pole to light a shopping center, for example. Now, when you look at the Sun Valley product line, we pretty much have those acorns covered, and we have those knob and shade style luminaires covered. In fact, in most recent years, about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when we introduced our DS series catalog, we did a lot to expand the capabilities of that part of our product family. But aside from the Mozart in most recent years in the 4-sided lantern appearance, we haven't really done much in the Sun Valley product line, or as much as we could, to be able to promote the virtues of this type of product. Well, that's now gone, because today we're introducing to you something new in the way of traditional illumination, and that's the Colonial Lantern. The Colonial Lantern takes on a lot of appearances that's similar to what we've seen when we introduced Mozart. We have 3 different variations on this fixture that allow you to have a cutoff style luminaire to meet today's current lighting requirements, a fixture with white or opal panels on the sides to give you a little more traditional look, or a clear patterned acrylic enclosure to give you just a little more diffusion to the optics inside. But all of these fixtures allow us a tremendous amount of flexibility as far as projects are concerned. But we started having this discussion about tradition and community and classical and historic and time-honored with another word. We're talking about family. Now we stop and think about family as part of this overall concept of tradition. We think of large families sitting together gathered for events, or families getting together for social activities. We think of families as being comprised of old people, young people, tall people, short people, short-haired people and long-haired people. All different kinds go in there to make families. And certainly that's what really makes a family unique and give it its character, is all these different elements to it. And you know what? The Colonial Lantern is no different, because for the Colonial Lantern, we've created a Colonial Lantern family of products to help put it, or make it, the ideal fixture for every application out there when you're talking about traditional illumination. Aside from the other looks to it, the Colonial Lantern comes in 3 different housing sizes, a 21-inch, an 18-inch, and a 12-inch, to complement the 3 lens configurations. So immediately, when you look at these elements combined, we have a wide variety of fixtures here to draw from. Aside from just that basic look, though, we've also made it possible within the Colonial Lantern family to be able to mount those fixtures in a couple of different ways. You can either post-top mount them, or you can pendant mount them, and this gives a tremendous amount of addition and breadth to the scope of the appearance of the fixture when you start looking at hanging it from decorative type of arms and post-top mounting it in multiple arm mount assemblies. Like any other good family, the Colonial Lantern doesn't just have its immediate family or brothers and sisters, but it's got its cousins in there too. Because we've taken the smaller size, the 12-inch Colonial Lantern, and we've adapted it for use as a bollard luminaire in 2 different styles. One with a larger shaft and one with a smaller shaft. And this allows us to be able to tie in the walkways and the pedestrian areas more completely into the site and the taller fixture mounting that we see for other pedestrian walkways. And not to be left out completely is probably what we can call the second cousins to the entire family line, And that's the Colonial Lantern family variation that allows us to wall mount the fixture. Now you see that along with the wall mount drawing that we have here, the graphic, some photos of applications already with the fixture. Yes, we've already installed the Colonial Lantern on projects out there. So this is what led us to really find the need or see the need for bringing the fixture to you in a complete form with all the variations, the sizes, the mounting variations, the lensing capabilities to it, in order to be able to fill all the various nooks and crannies and niches on a project that require those different appearances. Now, that by itself is enough, and when you sit there and really stop to think about it, that's a lot of variation. But we also have taken it and gone a step further. We've given it performance as well. The Colonial Lantern family is the ultimate in optic and source flexibility, in that we have virtually every type of optical system that we produce in this product family, and every light source possible included within the breadth of its many variations. Whether it's in HID cutoff or HID vertical lamp, whether it's in LED with the VLED optical system or the power array, and used with in a cutoff style fixture or a lens style fixture with the panels in either white or clear prismatic acrylic, the clear patterned acrylic, we have all kinds of different optical capabilities that this luminaire has available to it. And to stop for a moment and take a look, when we go back and see what we've just covered here, look at all the variations Colonial Lantern has to it. The Colonial Lantern family gives us 3 basic models in 3 sizes. It gives us a post-top mount or a pendant mount variation. It makes it suitable for sight or pedestrian illumination, for bollard applications, and for wall mounting. We've also included the other element to it in the optical side and source side of being capable of using either HID magnetic ballasts, HID electronic ballasts, or LED as the source. And this opens up the applications for this fixture tremendously. Now, why, you might ask, are we making an issue here as far as the source is concerned? Well, there's been some interesting things that have happened in the past few years other than just LEDs out on the marketplace. And to be sure, the LEDs are popular, the Colonial Lantern incorporates all the various sources in it. Obviously, when we talk about standard HID, core and coil, or magnetic ballasts, the ideal fixture for any type of budget consideration. It's the least expensive variation and is the most comfortable and familiar version of the luminaire that's out there. But in the last few years, particularly since 2009 with the ESA standards that have come out, electronic ballasted HID fixtures are now, or HID lamps are now available in a wide variety of wattages, lumen packages, and shapes that allow a tremendous amount of flexibility as far as lighting is concerned. Consider this. When the marketplace first started to digress or degrade in 2008, 2009, right when these standards were coming out, we didn't have a lot of projects to be able to look to apply all this new technology to. And the lamp manufacturers and ballast manufacturers were coming out with all of this new product. As the marketplace started to come back, primarily in the public sector, the big push was to go green and go to LED. And all of this new lamp technology and ballast technology kind of got left behind in favor of LEDs, but it's still out there. For example, where we used to have 50 watt, 70 watt, 100 watt, or 150 watt metal halide lamps, we now have ranges from 39 watt to 150 watt in 10 watt increments all the way up there in all kinds of lamp sources. Most of them T-lamp, which is a better performer than the old elliptical lamps, and with electronic ballast control, which gets us maximum life expectancy out of the lamp and better color rendering because of ceramic arc tubes. We also see efficacies to the tune of 105 to 120 lumens per watt out of these new lamp technologies. And with electronic ballasting, we have the capability of dimming these fixtures, or step dimming or full dimming of them, 50% to 100%, that we couldn't really do before in looking at just core and coil ballast. So there's a lot of capability packed in here, all usable within the Colonial Lantern family. And not to be forgotten, of course, is the ultimate in precision and energy savings as far as source is concerned is LED. Yeah, the Colonial Lantern family uses all of this technology and makes it a complete visual and performance fixture in total. There's just a couple of examples to how we can take advantage of this within a fixture of this type. Let's say, for example, that you have a pathway that needs to be illuminated, and the decision is made to illuminate the pathway with one of the sizes, probably the 18-inch, the middle size of the Colonial Lantern, and a cutoff variation. We could either go all HID or go all LED, but why not instead hybrid the job for the following reasons? Perhaps the LED, for budget purposes, the HID fixtures are going to keep the cost down on the job. But when we're looking at pathways or walkways in a school campus, corporate campus, or perhaps a residential application, we have to be concerned about security as well. And in cases where the power may drop out, LEDs are an instant on proposition, and so they will come back on immediately while they're waiting for the HID fixtures to warm up or to cool down and warm up again and come to full brightness, and you don't lose all of your light within the lighting scheme. Because of the ability to select the proper color temperature on LEDs and to match that with the color temperature of HID lamps, only the true professional will know the difference in the source, but it will all look the same to the average person out on the site, and the convenience of the modern technology being there. Or perhaps another scheme takes that same pathway, lights the entire pathway with HID pedestrian scale fixtures, but also incorporates a scheme using bollards in this illumination as well. Perhaps at certain times that's all that's lighting the pathway, and so the HID fixtures can be turned off, but also again in cases of emergency or occupancy, the LED fixtures can be instant on while we're waiting for the HID fixtures to come up to full intensity. So the availability of all this technology gives us a tremendous amount of flexibility in lighting schemes, but all within a traditional luminaire, and all because the fixture has been engineered to accommodate all of these sources. Now, to give you the ability to communicate these capabilities and all this flexibility to the marketplace, we've got a brand new catalog for you. Interestingly enough, the Colonial Lantern catalog. Here you're looking at the front page and the back pages. We wanted to show them to you, front cover and back cover, where you see the cutoff variation of the fixture on the left and the white panel version of the fixture on the right, along with the outline or the designation of the various area roadway, area pedestrian pathway or wall mount options that the fixture contains. I'm not going to go through the catalog in total here, but we will show you some features that are found in the catalog. The opening front cover in page 1, we see the idea of 3 different sizes scaled for the application included within the photographic representations here, whether it's a walkway, a parking area, wall mount versions, bollard style fixtures. It's all possible within the Colonial Lantern family. We also have gone to another 2-page spread that shows the application of the fixture with various arms, poles, and decorative bases. And as we can see here, the flexibility of having either paneled fixtures, having the various types of optical packages inside on the fixture, in this case the chimney here, second assembly from the left, wall mount versions of the fixture, pendant mounted versions of the fixture, the bollard styles. These 2 pages do a lot to illustrate all of the various application capabilities or flexibilities within the Colonial Lantern family. We also mentioned that the fixture is a performance-oriented fixture, and so 3 pages are devoted to optics. 1 describing the HID optics, 1 describing the LED power array optics for the lantern style approach of illumination, and 1 for the VLED optical system, the cutoff style approach. And we've added a feature on the VLED page, which one that compares LED count and drive currents, giving you system watts and the approximate equivalent in HID lamp sources, so that for those that are looking to say, instead of using a 175 watt metal halide system, what should I use? You have that capability of giving a rough comparison here on this particular page and giving you some guidance. We've given you a page given dimensions of the fixture both in post top mount and in pendant mount trim, as well as the bollards and the wall mount versions. In the specification pages, we've laid it out so that you can create any specification you need to, given the type of lamp optics and source that you're using within the fixture. In the first column on the two-page spread, all models related to the physical aspects of the fixture are described here. Then you have a column for the HID lamp electrical, the power array lamp electrical or source electrical, and the VLED source electrical in separate columns. So by combining one of the three columns to the right with the column on the left that says all models, you can create the exact specification necessary for that part of the Colonial Lantern family that you've selected or your specifier is selected to use on his project. To go along with that, we also have a lamp electrical guide that incorporates a variety of various HID lamps using both electronic and core and coil magnetic ballasts, providing you with the total system watt consumption, lumen values on the lamps, and this is all tied together to be able so that your specifier does not have to go back and look at two different catalogs to pull this data. And a question we get asked often has to do with a selling feature that most people use in the LED marketplace, that of delivered lumens. Now, as many of you know, and having us work out in the field with you, we're not a fan of just promoting lumens because lumens don't tell you where the light goes and the quality of the layout. However, foot candles do, and so we really want to emphasize the footprints of the fixture via the layout. However, we do know that this lumen value is something that is necessary to provide, and so when you come to the lamp electrical section concerning LEDs, you have the LED count, the drive current, and then the initial lumen value that gives you a range for each of the various assemblies that are used. And the reason that there's a range there is that depending upon whether your distribution is a type 2, 3, 4, or 5, your lumen value will vary according to that. And so that information is all contained here on pages 15 and 16. Excuse me. We then go on, and we're not going to go through all of the various configuration order pages or specification configuration and order pages, but for the cutoff version, what you see here is it's split up into an HID page and an LED page so that there's no confusion as far as how to build the fixture as you create the various, as you add the various features to the fixture as far as the distribution types, the wattages are available, and if you take a close look where the cursor is circling here, you not only have the ability to select out the color temperature, but also the drive current in the LED model for most of the LED models within the Colonial Lantern family. Now, when you come to the bollards, just simply for sake of expediency, we have combined the bollards as an HID LED combination on one page. So take a look at the line split there. Above the line is HID, below the line is LED. Colonial Lantern catalog certainly is full of information, and after tomorrow's webinar and webcast presentation in the morning, we will be putting this catalog up online on our website. Figure that it'll go up there probably right after, probably late morning on Thursday for you to download, but we will also be getting it to you available in the field as far as the catalog is concerned. Now, the catalog will not include all of the various poles and bases that are available for the fixtures, but we also want you to remember this. The Colonial Lantern matches up well with all of the decorative shafts and the decorative bases. We're going to show you why this is important here in a moment. Colonial Lantern continues to expand the Sun Valley offering when it comes to traditional style luminaires with performance and flexibility in both optics and sources, using both the current technology in LEDs with the power array and the VLED module, as well as what we discussed as far as HID lamps with electronic ballast and core and coil ballast. Match as well as a selection to choose from between the DS series and the Mozart Lantern. And more importantly, that Colonial Lantern calls us all back to a time that we know and we feel comfortable with in our heritage. Whether it's mom, baseball, or apple pie, doesn't matter. What we want you to remember when it comes to family is the Colonial Lantern, a product of Sun Valley, the absolute epitome of traditional excellence, or traditional